You could be the best dentist in town, but if your patients can't find you on Google, they're probably calling your competitor. Think about it. When's the last time you searched dentist near me? Did your practice show up on Google? Were you in the first 3 results? How many new patients are choosing your competitors instead of you because they can't find you or your services on Google? Today, we're going to talk about SEO and Google Ads and how they work together to put your practice in front of the right people, and why showing up on Google Ads matters more than ever, and what your team can do to turn those online searches into actual booked appointments. Today, we're joined by SEO strategist Tasia, the strategist behind the marketing that helps RevUp Dental generate tens of thousands of new patient calls for dental practices. In the next 2 minutes, I am going to show you what actually drives patient growth, from getting your practice to the top of Google to attracting new patients and actually turning clicks into actual appointments. We're going to break down what works and what doesn't work and where every marketing dollar should be spent. So let's get started. What's the biggest misconception dentists have about SEO?
I think the biggest misconceptions that they have is that SEO or working on your SEO is like a one-time project. A lot of business owners in general think that you do SEO and you do it once and you kind of tick off that box and then you're done. But in reality, it is always ongoing. Google changes things. Competitors are always changing their strategies, improving their own visibility, and your own rankings in Google search results can really slip if you go quiet. So it's kind of like fitness. We say you always have to be working on that to have those consistent results. You have to put in consistent effort. So yeah, it's not really just stuffing keywords onto pages and then you're all set. It's something that you have to be keeping up with all the time.
And I love the gym analogy. It's like if you stop working out, you're not going to be fit anymore. But if you keep working out, you're going to be fit. And it's definitely related to SEO in that sense. So that's great. Why should practice owners care about SEO today more than they did, maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think the biggest shift is really just competition. So there is a lot of dentists, obviously. A lot of towns are becoming more saturated with dentists, but also the amount of money and effort that competitors are putting into the online presence has really grown exponentially. A few years ago, when me and Ashlyn were working with dentists directly, you could get by with a pretty decent website and a pretty decent Google Ads budget, less than $1,000 maybe could get you pretty far. And I think in general, even before that, a lot of dentists grew their practices by word of mouth. But today, every practice down the street is investing in the same online strategies, making it competitive, making it more expensive. So yeah, Google Ads, you're directly bidding against everyone else. And so if you're standing still now, it really means that you're actually falling behind because everyone else is just working so hard at it.
Definitely. And I do remember that it's a good point to bring up when we were both CSMs together. I remember recommending a budget of $750 for Google Ads to maybe $1,000. I think now our CSMs are recommending $2,500, maybe $3,000. Yeah.
A minimum of 2,000. And that's over double what it was just a few years ago. So, and even that's not enough in some areas.
Yeah. And I know that some clients even were spending, even $4,000, or maybe even wanted to spend $5,000, but and seeing good results. But when you only spend a budget of $1,000, you're not really seeing that many results, right? Because everyone's spending $1,000.
Yeah. And even the same goes for the amounts that you're investing into SEO, what people are paying these marketing companies to get them to produce content for them and optimize their website. That has also become very expensive and competitive. So just in every angle, I think the competition has grown a lot in the last 5 years.
Definitely. What trends are you seeing in how patients search for a dentist right now? Is there any kind of trends that have kind of come up?
I think in general, something that's different now is that before, I guess people used to generally have a family dentist and that was your dentist for life, like your dental home. Like I think that's how a lot of us grew up. It's like, this is our dentist and they've always been our dentist. And if you move or you want to change, you maybe talk to friends or family or neighbors to find a recommendation. That was kind of the whole discovery process for like searching for a dentist. Now it's just completely different. It's patients have an overwhelming number of options and so many ways to research them. So it's all become about like reviews and ratings online and finding the best one, not just like a good dentist that you trust. So people are comparing your ratings on review, reading what other patients say, looking at photos of your practice, of your dental team. Like, do you look friendly and nice, all before they even reach out? So yeah, that loyalty by default model is pretty much been replaced, where, you know, practices have to like earn a click, like all online. So it's really gone digital and yeah, way less word of mouth and way less relying on what people say and day to day and more what they say online.
Which is very interesting how that's changed over time. Let's kind of start with the basics. Most dentists know what SEO stands for, but not necessarily what it actually does. Can you kind of explain SEO in like simple terms if you were speaking with a dentist or maybe a manager at one of these practices?
SEO is basically like, well, it stands for search engine optimization. And the search engine being something like Google and the optimization being you want your website to show up as an option on the first page of search results. You want to be like optimized to perform well on Google. And so when someone in your area searches for the kind of service that you offer, like dentistry or maybe like a specific thing like teeth whitening, your practice ideally should show up and look like the obvious choice. So it's part of making your website easy for Google to understand, proving that you or your website is trustworthy and relevant to the local community and those searches.
And what happens when someone searches dentist near me? I know a lot of people, when they search on Google, you know, when I'm looking for a restaurant, I'll search restaurants near me. Or I'm looking for, you know, a hair salon, I'll search hair salon near me. What happens when someone searches dentist near me or dentistry near me or dental practice near me?
That's like one of the most common keywords that, you know, businesses want to rank well for, because people are concerned about proximity. And so Google will like instantly pull businesses, or in this case, dental practices, from the searcher's area because it knows where you're located and where you're searching from. And essentially like gives you a list and ranks them based on relevance, distance, prominence. So usually you see like a map with a few practices, and it's called the map pack. And that's at the top. And then regular websites show up in the results below. You'll also have some sponsored results above and below. Those are like ads that people have paid to show up on top. They didn't earn that spot out of being the best or the highest rated, but they paid for it. And so those are all the results you see. And very few people tend to look past those results. Like I'm sure I'm the same way. Like when I look for restaurants like in a new city or something, I don't really like scroll to page 2 and 3 and 4 and look much deeper than that. I'm basically only considering those ones that show up first. And I feel like those must be the best. Like Google's showing me the best. And that's what they're trying to do as well.
And how does Google decide what practices appear first or who is the best in the, let's say, the first top 3?
It comes down to a few main things. I was talking about relevance. And so that's like, does your business or your website match what that person is looking for? Distance being like how close you are to the business. And then prominence is like how well known and trusted that result appears. So like reviews, how many, how good they are, how frequent and new they are. Citations, so like other websites talking about your website. Those all feed into that. It's not one single magic factor. It's kind of the whole picture. So yeah, it's a few different factors. Yeah.
And then what would be the difference between SEO and Google Ads?
This one, I was actually thinking of you when I was kind of preparing for this answer, because I feel like this is one of our like favorite analogies from being CSMs,
Yes.
but it's like the garden analogy, like growing your own food one. So when you're looking at SEO versus Google Ads, it's kind of like growing your own garden and tending to it versus something like going to the grocery store or maybe even like ordering Uber Eats. So SEO is like growing your own garden. It's taking time, consistent tending to it. But once you've done that and you've established it and you are in a good rhythm of like taking care of it, you have food to feed yourself for life. And you don't really need to buy anymore. It's good quality, it's homegrown. Google Ads is like the Uber Eats. So it's fast. It gets you what you want right now, but it's a lot more expensive. Arguably, it's like less healthy than homegrown. And also, the second that you stop paying for it, you suddenly have nothing to eat. Your fridge is empty. You have no garden. So SEO builds something that you own. It sustains you. And ads are great too. Like I love Uber Eats as well. Like it gives you something instant. But it leaves you dependent on like that next order. So ideally, I think the ideal thing is a bit of both, especially early on. But you never want to be in a position where you're like relying on one thing like ads. And the second you stop doing it, you have nothing left. So SEO, like it takes more time, but it's super sustainable. And it is something that you should be like working on over time. And it sets you up to be in a really good position.
And I think that's a great analogy. So thank you for sharing that with us. This is something that Tasia and I used to have to explain a lot to, our clients when we were working with them, especially, the dentists or the managers of the practice, because they would only choose one or the other. And we were trying to explain, you need to do both, right? If you want to be visible. So that's a great way of explaining it. Either grow your own or Uber Eats or grocery store, right? So yeah. A lot of people do ask you this. How long does SEO usually take before a practice sees results?
It really depends on your circumstances, like especially how many people are in your town or city, how saturated it is with other competitors. But generally, I would say you start seeing meaningful movement within around 3 to 6 months of putting the work and effort in, with the more stronger results building over like 6 months to even like a year plus. But yeah, it really depends on the competition in the area, the starting point of the website. Like, are you a brand new dentist with a brand new website starting from scratch? And also how consistent the effort is. Like, you can't just start up a new website and then wait 6 months and expect to see a result. Like, it has to be consistent work during that time. So I would say like a red flag, if you're like talking to dental marketing companies or any marketing companies for that matter, is anyone promising like a page 1 ranking in a few weeks or like a specific timeline. That's something to be wary of. I don't think that's really possible in most cases. So yeah, it can take quite a while, but it with consistent effort, it pays off.
And putting in the work, right? You talked about, especially if you're a new dentist, making sure that you're putting in the work, being consistent. I know that at RevUp, we always say that, FAQ videos and Google reviews and testimonials, having all that content on your website is definitely going to help with your SEO journey. But if you're someone who doesn't want to put in the work, you're obviously not going to see results, right? You can't just put a website up with a bunch of pictures and hope for the best that some patient's going to call you, right? We need more social proof than that.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. Like all those factors working together, like you can't just rely on one and have that pull all its weight. You really do need a combination of multiple things to have the best result.
So I hope for our listeners today, they understand, what SEO and Google Ads can do for your practice, and what also some of the things that you can do, like we just mentioned, Google reviews, FAQ videos, testimonials, and we'll kind of get into that later in our podcast as well. The segment 3 that we're going to talk about today is the patient journey before the phone rings, which is a very interesting topic. One thing we always say at RevUp Dental is that the patient experience starts long before the first phone call. Now, the first phone call, don't get me wrong, is the first impression. And we want to make sure, in our other podcast where we talked with Beth and Cassandra from our training team, they explained that when someone calls that practice, that new patient calls, how important it is on that first impression. Today, we're going to talk a little bit, talk about SEO before that, Google Ads before that. So what does it look like before that first phone call happens? How do we get that patient to the practice? So we're going to walk through that journey. When someone realizes they need a dentist, what happens next? So what are patients searching for first? I think we touched a little bit on this, but most of them, like you said, are searching kind of keywords in Google. Is there something else that they're searching?
Yeah, I think when someone realizes they need a dentist, it can be from different reasons, like whether you're in pain, whether you're just overdue for a cleaning, maybe you move to a new city. People almost always go straight to their phone usually. So, sometimes their laptop and stuff and search. But from that search to actually booking, they're making lots of impressions along the way. So, like you said, most of that happens before anyone ever picks up the phone and calls. But when they first search, it's often symptom or needs based. So emergency dentist when they're in pain, dentist near me if they, just want a new dentist in their area. Maybe they need a specific service like teeth whitening in their city. And so the new to area patients or ones that are just searching for a new dentist in general tend to search more generally. And then people in pain tend to search more urgently. And I guess you have different parameters or qualifications that you're looking for when you look at the options that will make you more inclined to pick up the phone and call somebody. So yeah, what makes someone click on one practice or the other, that we'll get to that later. But I guess it's more about urgency and needs when they're actually doing the first initial searching online.
Right. And that actually kind of leads me to that question, what makes them click one practice over the other? I know we touched on that a little bit about presence online and, what they're seeing online as well. But what does that kind of look like to explain to maybe a new dentist that's listening today?
I would say one of the main things is reviews and ratings on Google. That's maybe even the biggest one. I know we kind of felt like broken records, telling dentists how important Google reviews are, but they really are so important. It's like the restaurant or hair salon thing that we were talking about as well. If I'm looking for a restaurant, I'm looking maybe on maps and I click on one and I see it has 4.5 stars. That looks a lot more interesting to me than one with 3.5. I don't know anything else about the restaurant, but I see that rating. And so that forms an impression of whether or not I will investigate and look further into it. So very similar with dentistry. But also just a professional and trustworthy looking listing where the information is very clear to me. Whether the practice looks like it handles my specific need is another thing. If they, show the services that they offer and it's one that I'm interested in. And then I guess just the rest of the journey, a website that loads quickly and gives me a good experience, maybe pictures of the practice so I know what I'm getting into, if it looks homey and the staff look friendly. Those are all things that are kind of judgment based, but they're very important. We're all judging silently, and so you have to be aware of that and kind of play into it.
Definitely. And kind of touching back on the rating as well. On my screen, you're going to see here 2 practices with 2 different ratings, one with a really great rating and one with a low rating. And you can see the difference here is what Tasia was explaining. Also, Tasia, you brought up a really good point when it comes to images on website. A lot of dentists will think that stock images are okay, right? They work with marketing companies and those marketing companies don't tell them to take professional photos or just take photos of them at the practice. They just use stock images or AI created images. And really, that's not really setting you apart. We want to see your authentic self, right? Your authentic practice. And it's really funny because they'll be like, oh, well, my old marketing company told me that, having these photos is fine. It's like, yeah, but like, that's not you. That's like a fake AI image. People want to see the dentist, want to see the team, right? And want to see the practice and what it looks like inside. Even though if you have a very old office, you can take still nice photos, you can make it look great. If you have a modern office, you want to showcase that. So it's quite funny that they think, before coming to RevUp, oh yeah, having AI images or stock images is okay. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't really show who you are.
And if your practice is not like, if it doesn't look the way you want it to look or you think that's not appealing, okay, that's fine. Like, show photos of how friendly and sweet your staff
Exactly.
are. Like, that's the most important thing. And another thing that we talk about a lot on the RevUp team is like how different healthcare marketing really is, because it focuses on a really vulnerable topic. Like, it's something that like your health is very personal to you, and it is a vulnerable feeling to like go into a new dental practice. You don't know this person. They're going to be like working on your mouth, and you're laying back in a chair and for like an hour and you can't do anything. Like, you want to feel comfortable before you do that. And showing photos of who the staff are, what the environment looks like that you're going to be walking into, it really sets the tone of trust. Like, the patient thinks like, okay, there's transparency here. I know what I'm getting into. These people look trustworthy. They look friendly. And then the other thing is they're spending a lot of money. Like with dentistry, it's expensive. And so, like, making the decision becomes even more difficult, I guess. Like, you really want to make sure you're making a good one. And so, having that trust will be the thing that kind of like the tipping point that gets people to choose you over something like way less personable.
Yes, trust, I think, is the biggest thing. A lot of people experience dental anxiety. I am not, it's really funny. I'm in healthcare, especially in dental marketing, but I always hated the dentist as a kid. I was always really afraid of it. I thought it was very vulnerable. Like you said, I'm sitting in a chair, they're like drilling in my mouth. It's not a very comfortable situation, right? So I can definitely see why some people, don't enjoy going to the dentist. And when I think about, when it comes to picking a dentist, you want to pick one, like you said, that is trustworthy, that makes their patients feel comfortable, good, friendly people, and I've had experience with dental practices where, I actually had to change my dentist because they just weren't friendly enough. They kind of just dismissed me when I would come in, especially if you're feeling pain, they would not care. And no one really wants to have that experience, especially in healthcare, right?
Of course. And people don't want to take that risk. Like, even if there's nothing wrong with like your website or the way your practice looks online, like, it's almost just the lack of those trust signals that will cause someone to not want to take the chance to book with you. So you need those great Google reviews and people singing your praises and showing what your practice looks like and the friendly staff and all the things you do to accommodate your anxious patients. That will really make or break it for you.
So, Tasia, what's the biggest mistakes you see dental websites making?
I think the biggest mistake is often that the dentist makes the website or has the website made for other dentists rather than patients. And it's not really done intentionally, I don't think, but a lot of times we get clients asking us to include information about the new technology and equipment they just got in office and like the names of it and all the things it can do. And we're like, oh, that's great. But I don't think patients really care as much about that as the dentists do themselves. And so, it's fine, of course, but it's not really like a selling feature for a lot of patients. And something that we try to do with our clients is make sure that the websites are focused on things that people in their area are actively searching for. Like, the way to show up in the Google search results for potential patients is to get your website showing up when people are searching things like dentist near me, teeth whitening in city. If you won't show up better by putting information about your new technology and like very dental specific jargon on your site, because people don't know about that. They aren't actively searching for it. So we try to make sure that we're designing websites that are for the patients and not for the dental community. And sometimes that can be hard, I think, for dental professionals to like separate themselves from, because they don't necessarily know that people aren't searching for or aren't interested in that stuff. And I think that is a bit of a mistake. Like there's better ways to optimize your website.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of explaining it. Kind of brings into the next kind of thing I want to talk about is the visual journey, right? So kind of walk us through it. So someone will kind of search on Google for a dentist. What happens after that? And what leads them to the website? So if you can kind of walk us through when someone goes on Google on their phone or maybe their laptop, and then kind of what happens next so that the dentist understands kind of the visual journey here.
Mm-hmm. So they probably search for something pretty broad, like Dentist Toronto. They see so many options. They probably won't go past that second page like we talked about. Maybe they'll click on the map though and look at some options close by, but otherwise they're pretty much looking at around 10 options on page one and considering from that which one they're going to call. And those are based on things like the proximity and distance and things that we were mentioning earlier. And then, once they compare a few of those front-facing factors like their reviews and how the photos look and how many reviews they have, maybe how close the practice is to them, then that's when they actively start comparing their options and figuring out which ones to call. And I think some areas where practices may lose the patients even before the call can be like slow or clunky sites, like especially mobile sites. If your website isn't optimized for mobile and, like let's say Ashlyn is a patient and she clicks on ABC Dental's website and it's just like not loading within like a second, you're probably going to be like, okay, whatever, I'll try the next one. Like we don't really have patience. We don't have patience for much more than that. So, or if there's no clear way to book, no answers for the things that you're looking for, like, what services they offer, a lack of reviews or no trust signals, outdated information, all those things can really quietly kill your conversion. So after somebody finds you, like your SEO is doing the work, like you're getting found, but then if you don't have those other factors to actually win the conversion, then you're toast.
Definitely. And that's so true. If you go to a website, I've actually had this happen to me before where I've gone to a website and like it was not loading and I was like, screw this, like I'm going to go somewhere else. Right. And I think I was like shopping for like clothing or something and the website was just not loading. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go look somewhere else. And it's definitely true. Like if you are looking for a book now button and they don't even have a book now button on their website, you're probably not going to book with this practice or call this practice, right? There's a no call now button. And I know this is something that we love to put on our clients' websites, which is the request of appointment. And this is a form that our dentists can have patients fill out online, and then it gets sent to the receptionist, and the receptionist can give that patient a call. It's another easier way of getting patients to book with you, which is fantastic. And I know that other marketing companies, some might do this, some not. But I think that's a really great call to action, right? Like if you don't have that call to action, then why would someone book with you, right? If they can't find that information.
I know. And there's just so many options out there. It's like, it's not like we're strapped for other options. Like you'll just find the next one. So the whole process of elimination can happen very quickly. And it's sometimes a lot less complicated than the clients think. Like it really can be that simple. Like you said, you were shopping for clothes, the website didn't load properly. You're like, oh, on to the next. it's nothing more than that. It's not that the website didn't show up. It's not that the SEO wasn't good. It's there's way more to it than that.
And what's your thoughts on, I know we talked about social proof, like having FAQ videos, patient testimonial videos, those videos that really bring that social proof to the website. So if anyone doesn't know what a patient testimonial is, it's basically having a patient on video explaining their experience, right? Talking about what they experienced today, sounding happy. Maybe the receptionist or hygienist or dentist is asking a few questions about their situation. A lot of times, if you had like a high case, like let's say implants, and you really want to show that patient journey, they can kind of go in deeper with that video. So that was what a patient testimonial is. For an FAQ video, that is really the practice answering the commonly asked questions that people ask every day on Google. That's something that maybe Tasia can touch on a little bit more, but those videos are really important because if you can't answer the question or give your patients the answers that they need, they might go somewhere else, right, Tasia? So if you want to touch a little bit on FAQ videos, and then I just want to kind of tie it back to other things that they can do as well. But start with, if you can start with FAQ videos and kind of explain about that.
So FAQ videos kind of kill two birds with one stone. We have the SEO side of it, and then we have the patient trust side of it. And with the SEO side of things, FAQ videos are great because it shows Google that you have unique content, often educational content too, when it indexes the video and it can tell that, it's labeled to answer a specific question. And these are questions that we've researched that patients are searching for in your area. It's signaling to Google that you have strong authoritative content that is unique on your page, which is great. It also gets people to spend more time on your page. So when they're like engaging with and watching the video, it's signaling to Google like, okay, this person didn't just bounce from the page right away because it wasn't loading. Like they're sticking around on the page, they're spending more time on it. This must be a good result for that searcher. And so we should show this result to other searchers who search for this. So it's kind of like a feedback loop. It's like feeding the algorithm like, okay, this page is good. It has good content. And then the other side of it being the patient trust is great because like we were talking about, people want to know what they're getting into. So if they can see the dentist who's going to be working on their teeth on camera and kind of get to know their demeanor and how they look friendly and approachable, they seem to know what they're talking about, they're answering all the questions that they have, that's a great thing to get them to actually take the next step and book with you. It really just sets you apart in both Google's eyes and the patient's eyes.
That's a great way to explain it. So thank you for explaining that. And also, if our viewers do want to learn more about how to film an FAQ video, we have tons of content on our YouTube channel. And if you go to our website, we also have videos there too. So we do show you how to create an FAQ video as well as a patient testimonial video and what you need at your practice. Both are very simple. And like we said, it does tie into the SEO side as well. So I also wanted to ask you about, so we talked about patient testimonials, FAQ videos. What are your thoughts on, a lot of dentists will ask about blogs on their website. What's your thoughts about blogs?
I think blogs on websites are actually really great. There's been many changes over the years in like blog content and how that helps serve websites and their SEO, I guess. But I would say right now, I support blog content on your own website as long as it's high quality and niche. So we want to be putting blog content out there that supports the types of like keywords and searches that you as a business owner, as a dentist, want to rank better for. So if we're putting out high quality content about family or pediatric dentistry because you know that there's a lot of people searching for that in your area and you want to ensure that your website is one of the top results for that, then it would be a really great idea to be writing blog content on your website about that. So maybe topics like how do I know when my child should have their first dental visit? Or how do I know if my child is experiencing dental pain, like certain things that people actually want to know about. You like having content about that on your website can be really valuable to help you be more likely to show up in search results for queries such as that. And I think also signaling to Google that your website has fresh, new, educational, authoritative, high quality content being added frequently or at least often and regularly is a really good signal as well. So I think that that's a strong SEO tactic.
And I did want to kind of bring back to, we did touch on this, but when someone is, or a dentist comes to you and says, I want to get more cases of this, service, like I want to get more implant cases, high ticket patients, right? Like the ones that are going to spend a lot of money. How would they go about that? I know you kind of just touched on that a little bit with like content, but is, having videos on that help, or having blogs on that help get those high ticket patients? Or is it more like, maybe I need to spend more money on Google Ads for that service? How does that kind of work? Or what would be your recommendation in this case?
Yeah, that one is a little bit tricky because I first like to set the expectation first, which is that a lot of the time you just have to think of it from a patient's perspective. Like we were talking about, like health care and dentistry, it is vulnerable and it's very expensive and it is your health. And so when you think about like a person making the decision to have a really expensive and in-depth service done, like dental implants or maybe a dental surgery or braces or something, they know they're going to have to spend a lot of money and it could be a very long process. And so they really want to make that decision with a provider that they trust. And oftentimes that is with a dentist that they already go to and like. So most of the time, you should be focusing on getting patients, just new general patients, and work on building the trust with them. And they'll be much more inclined to eventually do those services with you because they know and they trust you. It's much less likely to get brand new patients just finding you online and deciding to get their dental implants done with you or like do their braces with you. However, those people do exist. It's just a lot less common. So it's much more competitive. Like we have a bunch of dentists who all want those types of patients. And so it's about setting yourself apart and making sure that you seem like the best option overall. However, there are other things you can do to improve like your search engine optimization about those services. So people do a lot of research on it before they make the decision of who to call or who to book with. So you want to make sure that if you do have people that are doing that research in your area, that they can find you and that you seem like the best option. So that is like making videos all about the service, talking about the cost, how long it might take, all the details that they might be interested in so that they can make an informed decision and that you seem like the best option for them. And then maybe they build the trust later and then just decide to book with you for that actual procedure. But making sure that they can like find you during their research process is big.
Perfect. Yes, I thought that as well because, if they're searching for implants near me, or, you want to obviously rank for those keywords. And to do that is, having content on your website or maybe running maybe a Google ad campaign or something like that, right?
True. And yes, Google Ads campaigns can be really helpful as well for getting you that exposure and visibility, especially if it's like a cosmetics service, because those are so hard to rank for. Like so many dentists put a lot of like money and effort into ranking good for them. So Google Ads can be a great way to get yourself on the top of the search results, but you have to open your wallet for that. They are the most expensive services to advertise for. So the return on investment is often not as good either. Like you might pay like a couple $100s to get a conversion, and then that person might not end up going through with treatment, but they might. And if they do, then it's a great return. But you have to be prepared for knowing that, if you want those types of patients, it's a lot of work and often a lot of money involved.
And that's very true. It is a step-by-step process because it's not even just about SEO. Kind of tying this back to our other podcast when it comes to customer service, you can spend all this money getting a lead, right? And you said it's very expensive to get a cosmetic case. But then once you get that cosmetic case and let's say your staff dropped the ball on the phone, right? Don't provide any information, you lose out on that patient, right? So your staff has to be as educated and prepared to answer those questions and try to convince that new patient to come in for a consultation, right? So I think it is there is a couple steps that come into play before that new patient actually becomes a new patient at your practice, right? So, you do have the aspect of doing the content, making sure that you're visible for, let's say, implant cases or Invisalign. And then once that person gets to you, that patient gets to your practice and calls your practice, we need to make sure that, your staff are actually prepared to answer those questions and able to help that patient. So very interesting how it all ties in together.
Yeah, it's really, like you said, it is a patient journey. It's
Yes.
very complex and more drawn out than most people might think.
Yes. And for anyone who's listening today, if you find that, you've done, RevUp's done those things for you, like the Google Ads and SEO, but your staff are still struggling with, making that connection with patients or getting that patient to actually book with you, we have multiple training courses on our website, courses that are free and some that are paid. So welcome to check out our website to see any of those trainings if you're interested in getting your staff trained. Our next kind of segment here, which is our last segment, which we'll quickly go through, is called the quick fire round. Basically, one sentence only. Tasia, I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions and then we'll go to our closing segment. So the biggest SEO myth, you think?
That it is a one-time job. You can set it and forget it.
Perfect. Most important ranking factor.
This one, I have to say Google Business Profile and reviews. If I could choose just one, if I could tell practices one thing to focus on, it would be your Google Business Profile and lots of reviews. Like that's the main thing.
Perfect. One website page every practice should optimize.
Boring, but your homepage. It is the first impression of you, and it's the hub that everything flows from. So you have to make sure that is. We don't want an Ashlyn experience where she goes to the homepage of the shopping website and she leaves right away. Like, make sure that that's a good experience right from the start.
One thing every dentist should do this month.
Ask your happy patients for reviews. And respond to every single one of them as well, showing your Google Business Profile that it's active and engaged with, and then also showing those patients that you are an active and engaged business owner who cares. It'll do some great things.
Perfect. And I know we actually didn't touch on that in the segment, but yeah, replying to Google reviews is a really big thing. I remember you talking about this, Tasia, before. It makes it look like you're active, right? And you want to make sure that you're replying to every review that's coming in, correct?
Definitely, yeah. And maybe this isn't a rapid fire sort of answer, but just going off of that, I know that I had a client a while back and he purchased a practice from a retiring dentist, and it didn't have the best reputation on Google. It wasn't awful by any means, but they did have some negative reviews. And it was kind of bringing their rating down. And one of the first things he did was going back and responding to reviews, like poor reviews that were 10 plus years old, because he understood like this really matters. And, when people go to a business's profile and they might sort and they want to see the 1-star reviews, like what are people saying negatively about it? You want to make sure you have a good response there. So he went in and started responding to these old reviews saying like, I'm the new owner. I've really changed things around. If you've ever have a change of heart, we'd love to welcome you back into our dental practice, and really turn things around for that Google Business Profile and the practice as a whole. And I still think about that because I think that's something that everyone should be doing, is responding to every single review, no matter what.
Perfect. Thank you. And yes, that wasn't part of our lightning round, but that's a very important part when it comes to Google reviews. So thank you for explaining that. Most searched dental treatment, you think, right now?
Oh, it differs by location, but maybe Invisalign and teeth whitening, they tend to lead, along with emergency dentists for urgency.
Yes, definitely those top three is what's really searched, I think, right now. A lot of people are into Invisalign than braces, traditional braces right now, which is very interesting. Probably because it looks a lot easier. And then you don't have that metal in your mouth. You actually just have like a clear aligner, which is fantastic. SEO or Google Ads, if you had to choose one and you were a dentist, starting your new practice, let's say.
Ugh. I know I'm going to be cheating by saying this, but I would have to say both. But if forced to pick one long-term SEO, it builds that lasting value that you will own forever.
One tip for the front desk team, if you had to give them a tip. I know that's not really your expertise, but you were a CSM, so I feel like you might have a good tip here.
I would say ask questions. Never give those one-word answers. Like I still remember phone calls that clients would get where somebody says, "Hey, do you do Invisalign?" And the receptionist is like, "Yes, we do." Like, ask a question, follow up, like say, "Yeah, have you ever, considered this before? Like, do you have an event coming up that you want your teeth straight or white for?" Ask the patients questions, keep them engaged on the phone call.
Yes. In our last podcast we did with Beth and Cassandra, this was the biggest thing, is asking discovery questions, especially for the high ticket cases, right? We want to make sure that, like we were talking about, the patient journey, you don't want it to like end up getting to your receptionist and then they don't know what to ask and you lose out on that patient, right? So making sure they're asking the right questions. So I think that is a great tip, because once you start asking questions, the conversation sparks, right? And then it will evolve into something else.
Yes, and people feel special and they have questions too. And sometimes they just don't know what to ask. So that's up to you to lead that conversation and steer them to want to book with you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I think the biggest takeaway from today's conversation is that successful dental marketing isn't just about chasing algorithms, right? It's about making it easy for patients to find you, trust you, and choose your practice. So SEO does help patients discover your practice. We also talked about Google Ads and how Google Ads help you capture immediate opportunities. So once that phone rings, your team has a chance to create an exceptional patient experience. When those pieces work together, practices don't just generate more leads, they grow sustainably, right? So if your staff are struggling and RevUp Dental offers a great training courses to get your team to the next level. So take a look at our website, check out it for more information. So again, thanks Tasia so much for joining us. We hope to have you on the podcast again. I hope you enjoyed today.
Thank you for having me. That was fun. And I hope that we covered some interesting topics for everyone. And yeah, it was really fun.
Great. Thank you so much. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it with your team, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.